Avoid acting arrogant. This contract is terminated, bottom-tier company. When Mike Jones, the president of Jones Interiors, a firm we had collaborated with since our inception, abruptly informed me that our contract was being canceled, I went into a mild panic. I couldn't agree to lower the cost of tomorrow's delivery in half, especially on the morning before delivery, even though I owed him for all the assistance he had provided me over the years. Finally fed up with Jones's irrational demands, I chose to dissolve the contract myself, even though I knew it may spell the end for my business. Even after that, Jones continued to say things like, "I'll keep doing business with you if you lower your prices." But I became enraged by his haughty tone and hung up on him. I've been hearing some negative reports concerning Jones's business lately. Maybe it was just for show, but I want to believe in the fervent man I'd met who said he cared about his clients. I was horrified to learn of Jones's true character, but if I wanted to keep my business safe, I couldn't afford to back down. I promised myself that I wouldn't regret standing my stance here, because nobody can predict when or where something would occur. Even yet, until I really knew who Jones was, I kept wondering if I had made the wrong decision. Tom Davis is my name. My age is 52. I used to work for a company that processed furniture materials, but when I was 50, I started Davis Furniture, a company that creates and sells unique designs. My dream has always been to construct furniture that I have designed myself. Even though the beginning was difficult, I'm fortunate to have talented artisans and first-rate staff, and our company has been expanding gradually over the last few years. However, we are unable to mass-produce our products since we will not take shortcuts. Nevertheless, even inside the industry, we have received recognition for the products we continue to produce with conviction and attention to detail. To our elation, we have been receiving an increasing number of requests from businesses looking to work with us. More sales are always nice, but in order to continue producing goods that satisfy customers, we must carefully select our business partners because we are dedicated to quality. Together, my team and I will continue to make progress. Of all the businesses we collaborate with, Jones Interiors has been there from the start. Mike Jones's desire to construct homes that would make a lot of people happy drew me in, and that's how we began working together. Jones has a large network and is an accomplished businessman. Even a tiny, recently founded business like mine was able to acquire a reputation in the field because of him. To suggest that Jones has played a major role in our success over the past few years is not hyperbole. By the time Davis Furniture's third year was up, Jones Interiors was the industry leader. However, Jones started altering his business plan at that point, aggressively raising prices with his newfound prominence. Although there were already whispers that Jones had lost his mind due to his success, I still wanted to think he had a plan. I felt imprisoned because I couldn't betray the debt of gratitude I owed Jones, even if my employees were starting to become uneasy. Then one day, I received a startling request from Jones. "Sales are up, so you don't mind lowering the wholesale price starting next month, right?" "What? Hold on, what are you talking about now?" "Never fear." "All right, I'll make sure to sell even more to pay for it." The call was abruptly ended without a proper explanation or even an opportunity to request one. I was shocked when a buddy informed me the next day that the goods I had provided to Jones's business were now being sold for more money. He claimed to have lowered the wholesale price just yesterday, but it turned out that he had really increased the retail costs. By this time, I couldn't help but be suspicious of Jones's focus on making money. We risk rapidly losing clients if this keeps on, and in the worst event, my business might potentially go bankrupt. With increasing urgency, I recommended to Jones that he rethink his approach. "What? You simply don't understand, do you? Making money from clients who can afford it is the lifeblood of the planet. That's incomprehensible to a little low-level business like yours. I've always aspired to make the industry better together and make as many customers happy as I can. But where had that collaborative spirit disappeared to? However, my own business may fail sooner if I lose over half of my sales from Jones's company." My brain was spinning as I gripped it in irritation, and I couldn't stop myself from overanalyzing because of the pressure. I was debating whether or not to keep working with Jones when I got a call from the Jones Interiors office next door. "I'm Steve Brown, and I work for the building design company Craft Design, where I manage interiors. It would be a pleasure to collaborate with Davis Furniture. Are you willing to talk to us about a contract? Craft Design was a relatively new but well-known company in the field, having completed many projects before. Craft Design has recently been described as Jones Interior's fierce rival. Steve is apparently employed there as an interior product buyer. I agreed to set up a meeting immediately because I felt that, given my circumstances with Jones, it could be time to look into fresh business prospects. When I finally met Steve a few days later, he immediately struck me as modest but personable. But I couldn't get rid of the thought that my expensive furniture might be beyond their budget because Craft Design primarily sells mid to low-priced goods. Steve, sensing my hesitancy, fervently stated that they wanted to collaborate with Davis Furniture because they intended to grow into more expensive products. I started to consider cutting back on my interactions with Jones Interiors and concentrating more on Craft Design. Jones unexpectedly arrived in my office without an appointment just as I was beginning to second-guess my choice. Jones stormed into the conference room with a sour tone and a demon-like glare at Steve. "Hey, I heard there's a pesky little gnat buzzing around in here," he said. "Your items cannot be handled by a low-cost waste firm like his. He should not even consider signing a contract here because it is 100 years too early." Jones quickly tossed out a figure that was nearly twice what we typically deal with and said that Steve would have to match that amount if he wanted a contract. Steve was completely deflated, so he wiped the perspiration from his forehead, mustered a shaky smile, said hello to us, and hurried off, almost like he was running. There was a pause after Steve's departure before I hesitantly addressed Jones. "Jones, about that wholesale price you mentioned earlier. That was obviously a joke. The fact that you believe that lie just shows how deeply your bottom-tier mentality has set in, doesn't it?" Jones interrupted me with a triumphant laugh and a snort. "Avoid mocking me. Are you certain you wish to say that? This little bottom-tier company of yours would quickly go bankrupt if it weren't for my company, wouldn't it?" I was unable to respond with a word and went mute. Jones grinned and gave me a quick pat on the shoulder before promising to extend the deal. I was limited to gritting my teeth, pleading, and saying thank you. But on the inside, I was going mad from frustration. After a few weeks, the phone rang one morning when I was going through some papers. Jones was the one. About tomorrow's delivery. Cut the wholesale price in half? Got it? In a hurry, I asked Jones again since I couldn't comprehend what he was saying. "I haven't heard anything about changing the price." "Obviously not. I told you just now. I'd appreciate it if you would do it for me. I couldn't possibly accept such a ridiculous request, especially since the delivery was already planned. Please refrain from making irrational requests. My workers have to provide for their families." Jones insisted that I cut the price regardless of what I said. By now I was thoroughly frustrated, and even I had finally had enough. "If you insist, let's just forget about this whole thing," I replied. "Avoid acting arrogant. Poor quality business. This is the end of the deal. Please don't regret declining my offer." Jones gave a smirk. Jones persisted in his patronizing remarks, such as, "I'll keep doing business with you if you lower your prices." Even after that, I became so frustrated with his irrational price negotiations that I abruptly hung up the phone. It was over, and I accepted that truth. But I started crying as I dealt with this sudden death. I couldn't sleep that night because I couldn't stop thinking about being bankrupt. After a hectic day, I was completely worn out by the next evening. I was ready to leave for home when the phone rang. "Hello, who's this?" I replied. "Is that some sort of joke?" "It's me," Jones uttered. However, he had lost his typically arrogant and self-assured tone. He sounded trembling. "What's happening? Isn't our contract already over?" I inquired. "That was only a joke yesterday. In any case, you must be experiencing issues with your inventory. I'll give you a 90% discount on delivery as a courtesy, will I?" I politely declined Jones's offer, quite stunned. "You are the one who is babbling. The supplies have already been delivered to the business next door. That isn't possible. Just deliver it right away, and I'll help you get rid of your inventory." Jones couldn't conceal the strangeness of his obvious distress. Curious, I wanted to know why he was so agitated. Did something happen? Something. Stay away from me. We've been inundated with complaints all morning because your things haven't arrived. I therefore require them immediately. I understand. We really don't have much inventory left though, because Craft Design placed a sizable order, and I've already shipped them all of our stock. What? Hold on. What just did you say? It turns out that Jones was the one putting on airs yesterday, even though he warned me not to act like a big shot. He stammered, his voice trembling with incredulity. Craft Design, which had been growing in the low-cost sector, was probably undervalued by Jones Interiors, which had concentrated on high-end products. Indeed, Jones Interiors had been selling only pricey things lately, and clients were leaving. Their dominance of the industry may not have lasted long, given that their deliveries had slowed and there were already whispers of dwindling sales. Look, we're in big trouble if I don't complete these orders. Simply give me whatever you still have to offer. Jones, I was in a difficult situation once you informed me that the contract was terminated. However, Craft Design took over, and in addition to signing a contract today, they also committed to buying all of our leftover inventory right away. What? That cannot possibly be true. I had spent the entire day transporting all of our inventory to Craft Design early this morning, which is why I had been so busy today. I swallowed my pride and contacted Craft Design to see if they would agree to a contract. To my astonishment, they set everything up soon away after agreeing and declaring that they wanted all of my stuff. Since I started the business, the warehouse has never been this vacant. All right, give Craft Design a call and ask them to return to me every item they receive today. I'll pay the standard price for all of them. You should be pleased by it, don't you? Jones suddenly began to make demands that were utterly irrational. I asked him what he was thinking, and of course I declined. However, Jones, who was obviously nonsensical, continued to think of ridiculous things and talk without thinking. Just make the same things now if nothing else is left. That's it. Finish it right away. What topic are you discussing? Every employee has left, and I'm on the verge of doing the same. Avoid playing tricks on me. Here, it's me who is swallowing my pride. Make all of the things that were supposed to be delivered today and have them finished by tonight, no matter what it takes. I just sighed at Jones's self-centered demands. It would take me at least half a year to produce the same items again. What are you going to do? Avoid being absurd. Half a year? That isn't feasible. What should I do at this point? I could hear Jones losing control and panicking even over the phone, his voice shaking with annoyance. However, 6 months is fairly quick considering the meticulousness and refusal to take shortcuts in our job. Jones appeared to finally comprehend when I told him there was nothing I could do, and he hung up the phone silently. Steve called me a week later, sounding abnormally frazzled and in a panic. Mr. Davis, I'm really sorry, but could you please come here immediately? What? Yes, I do comprehend. I'm so sorry. Please move quickly. I was clueless about what was happening when the call stopped abruptly. I hurried to Craft Design in spite of my unfavorable feeling. I was astounded to see Jones sincerely apologizing to Steve on his hands and knees when I got there and went to see him. I was at a loss for words because the sight was so unexpected. Please, I'm begging you, give me all of Davis Furniture's products right now. Steve was at a loss for words as Jones continued to talk gibberish. Steve looked at me frantically, and then Jones began to creep across the floor like a horror movie ghost. I recoiled in horror, but Jones got to my feet and started to put his head on the ground, begging me to bring the goods. When I saw Jones's disturbing behavior, I got goosebumps all over my body. Mr. Jones, no matter how often you ask, I am unable to deliver any goods to your business. Why are you traveling this far, too? Whatever it is irrelevant. If so, I'll purchase everything you've given this business. Jones, half crying and obviously irritated, yelled, "That should settle it. I'll pay whatever price you name." However, it was clear that this was not a straightforward issue, particularly in light of the product profit margins. Steve eventually gave up and accepted Jones's offer after growing weary of his insistence. All right, I'll sell it to you at retail if you're going that far. Is that appropriate? You're speaking now. Excellent. Let's have it delivered immediately. Grinning, Jones leaped to his feet and began phoning his workplace right away. I have the products secured. Inform every consumer that they are currently for sale. Steve and I looked at one another as we saw Jones confidently walk away. However, Steve promptly faxed an invoice just to be sure. Jones rushed back in a few moments later, his face contorted with rage. What is this, Bill? Are you making fun of me? I can't possibly afford this type of price. Steve and I exchanged another glance, both of us staring at Jones's ludicrous antics. Mr. Jones, didn't you just say you'd take all the products, regardless of price? Yeah, I did say that, but be sensible. How am I going to pay this amount? Who's the one lacking common sense here? I sighed in frustration at Jones's remarks and questioned him about why he was taking things so far. Jones claimed that he chose to concentrate on the low-end market since high-end products weren't selling. He therefore intended to sell my company's products at a reduced cost by lowering their wholesale pricing. However, all of the expensive goods he planned to purchase from Craft Design were priced at the going rate in the market. This implied that rather than turning a profit, he would lose more money the more he sold. Jones's face turned pale as he saw the mess he had made, and he fell to his knees, helpless. Jones's phone rang at that very time. His face tensed in terror the moment he glanced at the television. As soon as he picked up the phone, Steve and I could hear a loud voice coming from a great distance. About that, we couldn't secure the products, so please apologize to the customers. The call appeared to be from his business. As far as I could tell, the call was made because the staff was having trouble managing the clients who had come to pick up their purchases. Despite having recently notified clients that the products were ready, Craft Design's warehouse still contained all of the merchandise. Sorry, we don't have them after all, was an unimaginable way to go back. The staff was overloaded with questions and unsure of how to respond. To our surprise, however, Jones continued to react in a haughty manner, yelling out at his employees, "Enough, enough. Nothing remains. It's your responsibility to apologize, so just do it well." The customer-first mentality that Jones had previously discussed was no longer present. Jones hung up, his face expressionless, and walked away without a word. I then learned that all of the customers' reservations were canceled due to the incessant back and forth from John Interiors. In the end, the business gave the clients who had already paid a refund. In the span of a month, I was inundated with fresh orders from Craft Design and new questions from businesses looking to enter into agreements. Then one day, I picked up the phone without thinking and was startled to hear Jones's voice. "Your company and other small enterprises must be free, right? What about re-signing a contract and sending me the goods?" I was really unhappy when Jones used the same patronizing tone of voice once more. Jones insisted that we sign another contract even after I gently declined. I was too busy to waste time on Jones's self-centeredness, so I retorted icily, "No matter how many times you ask, I'm sorry, but we're fully booked with orders, so I can't take yours." "Come on, it's just you and me, right?" Jones persisted in pleading in spite of whatever I said. Finally fed up with his self-centeredness, I made a recommendation in the hopes that it would persuade him to stop. Even if we signed a new contract, delivery wouldn't be for at least another year. A year? That's all right, just sign the agreement. I was dubious of Jones' odd persistence, but I hung up. I was taken aback by what I saw on the news the next day. Jones had been taken into custody on fraud-related accusations. It found out that he had been collecting money from clients without ever delivering the goods, which is something I never imagined he would do. No client received a reimbursement for any of the cancellations he had previously dealt with. There would be no revenue if there were no things to sell, and there would be no money for refunds if there was no revenue. Jones had turned to conning new clients one after another after the bank refused to give him money. He was so in need of money that it was even alleged that he had been unable to pay the salaries of his employees. Even his company's secret accounting fraud was discovered as a result of this occurrence. It appears that Jones Interiors exaggerated their sales figures to establish a phony reputation before bragging to rivals about their position as the industry leader. Jones hadn't gotten in touch with me since the news broke. The investigation informed me that Jones had been purchasing goods from competitors by employing their staff and reselling them via his own business prior to doing business with my organization. He believed he could control the market if there were no more goods for other people to sell. However, other businesses started taking precautions to avoid selling to specific clients after becoming suspicious of Jones's unusual bulk orders. He was inspired to increase his sales channels at the time because the furniture my firm manufactured was well received and sold for high prices. I didn't know it, but he was a real operator, in a negative sense. However, there's no doubting that he contributed to my product's increased visibility. Even if Jones disappoints me in a lot of ways, I guess I should be grateful for that. I discovered something new once Jones's media attention subsided. Jones's negative image had become so well known in the industry following the fallout with Steve that no business would hire him. Desperate, he thought he would take his business somewhere if no domestic company would cooperate with him. So he signed a contract with a cheap offshore corporation. He had to deal with refunds once more after receiving numerous complaints about delivery that didn't match the catalog descriptions, just when he thought he had finally secured some things. He was unaware that the foreign company he had associated with was well known in the industry for its dubious business methods, to the point where everyone was cautioned to avoid them. Jones had lost a lot of money since he had been totally tricked. Overwhelmed by his debt, Jones finally vanished. My own business expanded in tandem with Craft Design, which was acknowledged as the leading company in the sector due to its dedication to quality. In addition to having more workers, we have also hired more artisans, which has enabled us to accept even more orders than previously. The best part is that my furniture has grown into a well-known brand, which has led to partnerships with other businesses and an incredible volume of requests. My life has become more balanced and flexible as a result of the staff expansion, allowing me to consider future survival strategies. I started making opportunities to learn new things, and it has been really enlightening and fun to hear lectures about varied life experiences. I happened onto a presentation with a somewhat odd premise one day. "The Big Failures of an Unfortunate CEO" was the title, and it caught my attention. I was eager to hear the life tales I would discover, but when the lecture started, I was stunned to discover that Jones was the one who had mounted the stage. I never thought he would be here. In contrast to earlier, Jones was sharing his failure experiences in a humble and amusing manner without demeaning anyone. I couldn't help but become engrossed in his presentation, and I started to question whether I had previously underestimated him. I came up with new ideas after hearing the stories of failure from someone who had formerly been such a clever businessman. The speech was over before I knew it, and Jones, who was smiling and a little bashful, was given a round of applause. I silently wished him luck in his new chapter of life as I joined in the applauding. He appeared to be paying off his obligations with the money he received from speaking engagements. The definitions of success and failure are unknown. Maybe it's true that failure can lead to success. Like Jones, I made the decision to examine myself critically and maintain my humility while continuing to produce goods that make a lot of people happy.